So it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. So if you're around Film Network Ireland FNI, we're having a speedy networking event. And for anybody who has been to any of our other events over the last couple of years, because we're running since 2010 now, you'll know that they're great crack, and it gets people chatting, whether they like to or not. So we're having a speed. It's called FNI Speed Networking 3. This time it's Christmas. In Devitt's Pub on Camden Street on the 10th of December, and it's upstairs. If you know Devitt's at all, you know that it's been massively revamped, so it looks fantastic. So if you're around, bring a pal. There'll be some prizes as well on the night, and it's just a good excuse to sit down, albeit briefly, with some other filmmakers, actors, and so on. And yeah, it's a good opportunity to chat. So yeah, come along, and it'd be great to see you there. Thanks.
Paul Butler.
I'll fight you first.
Who's going to go first? Paul Butler. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you,
How's
Paul of the Webster? Amazing, top of the range.
Good. Welcome to episode 11.
Legs 11 of FNI WrapChat.
Hope you've been enjoying the show. We have a really good one. We've got Demian Fox. We'll talk about that a little bit later. What news is there? We've got some film board news.
Yeah, we have some IFB or Screen Ireland, or I don't know to what capacity they refer to themselves now. Yeah, the script development scheme, I guess, is back in two different guises. We have I think there's a more traditional, established strategy. And then there's a new one
for independent writers that they can go. So yeah, check out the Film Board website for that. We're always talking about a wonderful film called It's Not Yet Dark, and we said we'd let you know when it was available in Ireland. So it is available to rent now on volta.ie. Beautiful film about a sadly deceased now filmmaker, Simon Fitzmaurice. And if you go back and listen to episode 4, we have the director of that film, Frankie Fenton, and it's a really, really good episode, I think, because I wasn't on it.
Yeah, well, you just listened to it, so you know what it's like for the rest of them.
Yeah,
it's a really I can't overemphasize this. It's just a really important documentary, not because of the circumstances, but because of the incredible spirit of this man.
It's a love story.
Really is, and it's quite poetic and lyrical, and if you're going to watch one doc, and I know a lot of people are not fans of docs, but if you're going to watch one doc this year, I suggest you watch it.
So Demien Fox, well known for the comedy.
For
rock
the
metal
comedy,
band, Dead Cat Bounce, who are playing a bunch of shows coming up to Christmas around the 20th of December in the Project Art. So if you check out, there's loads sold, but there's a few left. I'm going.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be bouncing in the back door. But yeah, they're it's selling really well. They initially just had 1 or 2 nights booked in, but they had to extend it to like 5 nights. So
check out some of their old sketches. The Rugby for Republic Telly, and they did a few where there's a great BBC one where they were mistaken for Kasabian. They really cracked me up.
Yeah, they're on the ball. So check them out. So without any further ado, here's Demien Fox. Thanks a lot.
Welcome, Demien Fox. Thanks very much for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How's your day going?
My day? That was a curveball. Yeah, pretty good.
What are you working on at the moment?
Well, right now we're kind of preparing for the Dead Cat Bounce reunion shows at Christmas, which were never really supposed to happen. So we're kind of writing those furiously, and
you have to do it now. You've sold the tickets.
Yeah.
What did we commit to?
Yeah. And ordering props from China and figuring out how to record voiceovers for our inner monologues and all sorts of silly things that really wasn't part of the plan when we started.
Cool. So you've got was it 5 dates in December?
Yeah, the 18th to the 22nd of December in Project, which is where we did our first ever gig. So it seems like an appropriate kind of place for the 10-year.
Home, man.
Yeah, why the hell not?
Cool. We go back to the start then, because you're a writer mainly now, it's kind of, and then you're a comedian. Like, what was your first love? Was it music or comedy or film or?
I mean, look, this would be going way back to the start, but I guess my first love when I was a kid was probably music. I wanted to be a rock star, you know,
right, yeah.
or more specifically, I wanted to be a heavy metal drummer, probably.
Okay.
But you know, I always loved Monty Python and all that stuff as well. So it all just sort of coalesced into what turned out to be a perfect job for a while, which is a comedy drummer.
Cool. And how did Decca Bounce come to be then?
Well, pretty much straight off the bat when we went to college, there was like week one actually there was a postgrad guy who set up an improv group, and we were part of the people who joined that, you know. So for the first year we were doing improv with him, and then he went off to back home, and we kind of turned into a sketch group or whatever. So we did that kind of stuff through college and kind of cut our teeth basically, and did Edinburghs and that kind of thing. So when we finished uni and we were all trying to do our own jobs and all the rest of it, the three of us, Shane, James and I, were living together and sort of a bit bored with life. So we were kind of just doing stupid musical things and whatnot, just to entertain ourselves, and we figured why not try and put something on. So we booked the project, and we put on that first show. And that first show was sort of crazy though, because you know, sort of enough people remembered us from college that we were able to sell, it was like 80 tickets or something. But then we got a call from the box office saying, would you be able to kick someone out just because Will Ferrell wants to come? We were like, yes, kick out the wheelchairs, kick out, oh, we don't care. Strip out the front row, whatever. But yeah, he was just staying in the hotel across the road and was like, asked the people, is there any comedy on? Like, it was just absolute luck, blind luck. Oh, wow. And so, I mean, the show, it was a good show, which didn't hurt as well, but the fact that he was there and we got photos with him, like, we had something to talk about after that. We had a bit of press and whatever and stuff. And
bit of a platform, I guess.
Yeah, it was nice. And RT were doing a pilot system at the time for comedy, and they had sent someone along.
That was Project Haha. Right?
Project Haha, yeah. Out of which the big winner was Savage Eye.
Right.
But we sort of developed a sketch series with them and made a pilot and stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It was cool.
Yeah, it was. It was the highlight for me, anyway.
It was fun, but I think we were too young for the kind of sketches we want to do. Like a lot of our sketches and a lot of our characters and stuff, not the band stuff, but the other things, like the films we're developing, they're all kind of about failed people, or people who really or people who really should give up on their dreams. You know? It's actually mostly just autobiographical of like people who do a really specific niche kind of job, take it way too seriously. It's like this movie we have
middle management, the movie kind of stuff, is it?
Well, yeah, but like with some of the crazier sort of side of the fringe. Like, you know, in our travels, like we've shared the stage with the Chippendales and stuff like that. So we kind of tried to imagine just being stuck in the job of a Chippendale, and like in the same way that an office desk monkey feels stuck in their job, you know, because like performing people feel this exactly the same way, but it's just so much more undignified and hilarious, I think. So we have a movie on the go at the moment that hopefully we're going to be making next year, which is called Send in the Clowns, and it's based on a sketch we did in that first show, actually, and then a play. But have you ever heard of Clowns Without Borders? Yeah. So they're like Doctors Without Borders, but they send clowns in, right? Which in the real world is a beautiful, helpful thing, right? They bring some levity and whatever to tough places. Yeah. But we come up with these characters of like just terrible, selfish, failed clowns who go on something like this. But for all the wrong reasons, basically to get exposure, kind of to make a name for themselves, to be seen to be awesome, and they go for all the wrong reasons, and they get kidnapped by child soldiers, which we figured is the toughest crowd a clown could ever have to play for. So basically, in order to get out of that, they have to, you know, get their shit together and whatever, learn to live again, all that good stuff. But so those are the kind of characters we want to do, and I don't think you can kind of do that when you're 22 and fresh faced and haven't actually experienced being beleaguered and stuck in a weird job.
Such a good premise. So you would have gone through the process of getting development and all that. Could you just talk with the film board and just talk us through the process there?
Yeah.
So as much as you're allowed to divulge.
Yeah. Well, So yeah, as I say, we had it as a sketch in that first show, and a few sketches from that first show had nuggets of really good ideas actually that have like two. There's another one in development with the film board as well, and then the final song, which was a condensed pitch for Famine the musical, we're working on development into a longer thing as well. But anyway, so we had that initial sketch, which was just the three clowns coming off stage into the kitchen after a disastrous birthday party and just arguing, tearing the heads off each other. Yeah. And then later on, we were like, God, there's something more to those guys. And we developed it into an hour-long play for Dublin Fringe Festival. And the characters kind of became more... I was going to say nuanced, but that's just not true. They became more, they became more alive. We turned them into versions of ourselves, and all of our experiences of those arguments. Like, at the time, and like it was, we were the most proud of that of anything we'd ever done, right. And it was just loads of fun. It was these clowns come off stage, tear each other to shreds, arguing, throwing blame, and all the rest of it. And they basically get to the point where they're, that's it, we're bloody quit, can't do this anymore. But they just talk themselves around into, actually, no, we can't quit, we are genius, we're going to do this again forever. And the kind of transpires is that's the same argument they basically have after every show, after every day. So anyway, we did that play, and that was a kind of a good jumping off point then to go to the film board with, because we had something that, had sort of proof of concept or whatever, and by that stage as well, we had made a really, really low budget, kind of almost guerrilla feature called Discoverdale.
Yes.
With the same... So I don't know whether to jump into that story now or not. Or
well, yeah, so maybe just talk through a little bit of the kind of the story of Dead Cat Pants. So you were doing all these shows. You did a lot of touring, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did a lot. So that's sort of where all that beleaguered stuff comes from, or whatever. It's like having 3 spouses and living in the backseat of a Fiesta or in bunk beds in weird hostels or that used to be public toilets and all this kind of stuff. So we started off. We tried out different formats. We did the sketch show, and we tried out kind of piss take of radio plays where we were doing the live Foley sound effect and stuff like that. Right. Music started to creep into it more and more, and people really responded to that. And then we kind of turned it into the band format that a small handful of people know and love today.
I'm one of them.
So that was the kind of thing that sort of took off for us in terms of touring. So there'd be, every year, the big cornerstones of the touring calendar for comedians would be Edinburgh in August, and then you've got the Australian and New Zealand festivals in sort of February, March, April, and then Montreal. If you do that, we only did that once, but and then you've got every single arts centre and pub up and down the country and across several other countries in between that. Yeah. Those are the tough ones.
And you would have, could you talk a bit about, where Republic of Telly came in there? Because you also wrote for them as well, right?
Yeah. So Republic of Telly, at the time, well, it doesn't exist anymore, but they, used to look for comedians to do little segments, like, the way they got Rubber Bandits to do their Horse's Side smash hit. Yeah. And so they asked us for something, and we went with rugby, which worked out pretty good, and we did a couple more after that, which worked out less well. And then it was actually towards the end of when we decided that we were going to stop the touring of Dead Cat Bounce, and we were all sort of like, okay, how do we segue out of this with a CV that says 2008 to present comedy drummer? Right. We were making our last video actually with the Republic of Telly lads. And I just kind of asked them, do you know of any writing jobs going or whatever? And they have a slot, or they had a slot on that show, which is basically the review of the TV shows of the week, where they basically, Dermot would take the piss out of Nationwide or whatever it was. Yeah. And so they gave me a shot at doing some of that, and that worked out, and I did kind of more and more of those kind of TV review segment script stuff.
And is that then how you kind of segued into doing other telly?
Yeah.
Cool. And we're jumping around. We're jumping around.
The timelines don't cross the street.
So, I want to talk a bit about Discoverdale, which is a feature. Was it kind of self-produced? You guys are...
Not quite. No, it had a small budget, but I think it was sort of independently financed. I mean, not by us because we don't have any money. But the producers, and our agent at the time tracked down enough to invest in it, and they took a shot at it, because we've been trying to do something with those band characters for years. Fly the Conchords kind of made it very difficult because it's kind of like you try and pitch somebody a sitcom about like a wacky band, you know, getting into wacky situations. You're kind of like, So,
but no reflection on your own work. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. But it's sort of just even the fact that you start the pitch with, okay, so there's this comedy band,
right? Yeah.
You know, it's sort of a specific thing that they had kind of cleaned up.
Yeah.
But Discoverdale. So yeah, we were around the same time that we wrote the Clowns play. Anyway, the guy who directed Discoverdale, George Kane, who's a sort of mainly sitcom director. He's an Irish guy, but he lives in London and he does lots of stuff over there, Time Wasters and Crashing and lots of other things. He was kind of like had an idea for kind of a backpacking sitcom where basically you follow a group of people and take them around different European cities. And we kind of looked at that and we're like, yeah, but what if it was about us? So kind of came up with this spin on it, which was where Jim, the lead singer of our band, Dead Cat Bounce, got into his head that David Coverdale, the rock star lead singer of actual rock band Whitesnake, was his biological dad.
Yeah.
So the sitcom would be them basically following Whitesnake around on their tour and, you know, never really getting close to them, but mainly being about them busking, trying to survive. And, you know, the idea didn't really go much beyond that. Right. But the producers who we were kind of friends with and knew we wanted to do something with, because we'd done little shorts and stuff before, they were the real kind of guerrilla energy behind it. I remember Chris, one of the producers, he said he just Googled Whitesnake's tour schedule and said, oh, they're in Scandinavia next week. So, so like, how about, you know, to hell with scripting anything, to hell with sitcom, how about you just go and you actually try and get hold of this rock star and you actually go up to him and say, did you sleep with a woman in Manchester Arena in 19 whatever? And
did my mom see your white snake?
God, there was a lot of that. So, and
practically writes itself.
I mean, no. So, but it worked out quite well timing-wise as well. Because the story of the movie is that that Dead Cat Band's quit, and what are they going to do next? Yeah. And what James is going to do next is track down his biological dad, and they end up getting dragged off on this adventure. And it was super fun to make because screenwriting, as I'm sure you both and anyone listening who's tried it knows, is an endless affair. It's like I'm working on a script which the first draft is dated 2012, and I'm like, what's like, you know, I'm a different person. Almost all the cells in my body have changed right now. But with this one, it was kind of like, you've got a week. You know, you've got a week for any preparation, and you're going to be there. And also, it's hard to prepare because you don't know what's going to happen, and also you don't know if this rock star is you're ever going to get hold of him. Like, what's the ending of your movie if you can't get in backstage and confront him? So it was like totally improvised. To the point where, like, on day one, I decided it would be funny if my character didn't bring a jacket. And then I was stuck with it in Norway, in like, you know, leopard print tights and a, you know, sleeveless t-shirt with the whole shoe.
I don't think I need one.
It's just like, but you know, it worked out. He was eventually, after a few cities, they kind of contacted us and said, okay, what the hell is this thing exactly? And he's got a great sense of humor, which is part of the reason we like him. So he was like, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes, but I don't want to know anything about it. Just I'm going to pull up in a car outside this hotel, and you just grab me and do whatever it is you're going to do. And he just gave us this awesome ending. Right. Yeah. So it was cool. And now you can get it on DVD in Japan. Which is like the most Spinal Tap ending ever. You know, it's you can get it on demand in the States and stuff. But I think what really made it tricky was that, like, it's peppered with Whitesnake songs. Right. You know, and he was game to give us clearance, but like they all have like lawyers and millions of other songwriters and blah blah blah. But so there's a tip for anyone.
So I'd love to see it. It's kind of a last gem for Irish fans.
Well, I've got a Japanese subtitled copy at home. You're welcome to borrow.
Just so happens.
Well, you can buy it subtitled Japanese if you want. You know,
okay.
It's on. Yeah.
Well, I wonder, just out of curiosity, was it easier to license it there or something? Or what?
I honestly don't know, but I think they love their classic rock, right? So they love Whitesnake, and that's why I think so does America, right? Yeah. And that's the only two places you can get it. Okay. And so I think there's a reason that Japanese Spinal Tap myth is true. Like, did you see Anvil?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, that basically has a real life exact same ending where they get a second lease of life in Japan. It's incredible. So I think there's something there where they like that, like I say this affectionately, cheesy rock. Like, it's my favorite type of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So was it then you kind of took a bit of a break from tech apparently?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of moved more into the writing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd been, just as we were coming to a close again, or knocking the live thing on the head, like we had a couple of scripts that were sort of up and running or whatever, that we knew we wanted to try and do screenplay wise, but at the same time I knew I was going to have to support myself some other way. So I wrote my first kind of solo script, which is a horror. It's not actually attached to anyone at the moment. I'm not actually. I didn't never submitted it to the film board or anything like that. But it was enough to kind of just kind of get me started and make me realize, oh, actually, I can
finish this.
I can start and I can finish the thing, and it's not half bad, you know. And then, you know, as we were talked about earlier, the Republic and Fair City stuff, and Red Rock, I was working on as well in a story kind of capacity. But you know, the focus has always been feature stuff. So pretty hot on the heels of that first horror I wrote.
Which was called, what was it called, Roy?
Well, it's not released right. It's sitting in a box. I'm going to do something with it someday. So I'll be a bit superstitious about giving away an awesome title. But
superstition.
Damn, you got it. But it was like, it's based on a very specific thing from Irish mythology, and I think one of the reasons I've been reluctant to do anything with it was I'm pretty sure the film board is inundated with. I remember being at one of their talks before, and someone said, like, what are you just sick of? And they said IRA and Irish mythology. And yet and yet they never make it, but actually they do make some horrors in that vein. But anyway, one of the other things as well was I ended up kind of stealing a pretty core idea from it for the next one. So.
Yeah, I guess the canal wasn't too bad, and obviously that new movie coming out, the zombie one, The Day Before Ends.
Right? You were talking about with a mythological...
Oh, like a horror movie, specifically genre.
Oh yeah. They're definitely.
But they don't have a huge
No, they're doing good. No, they're doing a lot of horror, but I suppose like a creature from Irish mythology, like the fairies. I think there's a lot. They get a lot of stuff about lads cutting down the wrong tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fairies coming for them. I'm that's in my movie as well, so I'm not slagging anyone who's got that in theirs. You know what I mean?
Count the wigs.
No, because I did a little bit.
You did some
reading, and you do. You tend to get a lot of the same things. Even like then we were like getting a lot of stuff from London, and like every script seemed to be about gentrification or hipsters. So there's kind of things go through phases. Yeah, totally. So say in your is horror kind of your other love? It's not connected to comedy.
Yeah, horror's absolutely. And usually I like to keep them separate. Like there's a very few horror comedies that I love. Like Shaun of the Dead, amazing. Obviously, one of the best ever. But excuse me. But yeah, mainly I like you know, what do they call it now? Elevated genre, art house horror, whatever. Like one of these ones which is like I like quite moody horror, like, you know, like I loved The Witch, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another one kind of called February. Anyone see that? It changed its name then to
March.
The Black Coat's Daughter. The Black Coat's Daughter, yeah. No. Yeah. Oz Perkins, Anthony Perkins, the guy who plays Norman Bates, his son wrote and directed it. And so it's just this kind of really moody, satanic thing, which is like, that's, you know, it's great. It probably ties into my heavy metal kind of childhood, right? I've got an unscratched itch to, you know, to do something with the dark side as well. Yeah.
So you're working on something horror at the moment?
Yeah. So I'm working on one called Hive Mind. I guess I can say that because it's out there now. That's with Tailored and Conor McMahon, director of Stitches and other bits and pieces. Yeah. So I guess
he's great. Some of his stuff was really,
he's awesome.
Really good,
Like he's like, and you know, we met during Republic Italia, and I was kind of like, okay, here's a guy who also loves comedy and horror. So at some point, I think I saw It Follows or something. I saw some great horror in the cinema, and then I just texted him all caps, "Let's make a movie." Right. And he was like, "Okay, give me something." So we started. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a perfect match. I think your style and his style. Yeah, looking forward to hopefully seeing that.
Yeah, so that's and then bits and bobs. Apart from that, like script editing, it's sort of just, it's like doors open doors is
Yeah.
what I find. So like the Republic of Telly led to Fair City, or Decadence led to Republic of Telly, led to Fair City, led to Red Rock, we'll say.
Yeah.
You know, working with Blinder on this other comedy script called Tandem, which is based on a sketch from that first show. The other one I kind of mentioned. Then when they were working with a writer-director team called Daddy, Mike and Enda, you know, they had a kind of a feedback session where they did a live reading of it in front of some industry people that they kind of knew, and got our feedback. And off the back of that, then they kind of asked me would I do a proper kind of script edit feedback on it, and then sort of off the back of that, then they asked me if I'd do a draft of it, which was great. That was actually the most fun freelance work for someone else's thing that I've ever done. It was great. Look, that's a really fun project as well.
Cool.
They're filming that the start of next year, I think.
Brilliant.
Which is going to be fun to see how it turns out.
Cool. You were telling me about the simulacrum
Yeah.
for the clown movie.
Yeah, that's right. For Send in the Clowns. It's something that we'd never heard of people doing it before, and I'd definitely never heard the word before, simulacrum. But it's something that Fastnet apparently do as part of their development, and it really seems to work. Like, some people will do a teaser, little minute and a half kind of taster of a movie as part of their development. What Fastnet do, or what they did with us at least, was book a rehearsal room. I think it was in Bow Street. And just get us in there with the director and a cameraman, and just film the script on its feet. So, you know, you're improvising props, or like you've got, like, you know, a paper plate for a steering wheel. It doesn't really matter. And so he's doing his best to get roughly the shots he wants, and he's feeling it out, and you're feeling it out as well in terms of performance. And then it cut together. You get to look at kind of a live storyboard of your, you know, it comes off the page. It was a really cool experience, because you got to see where things lagged and where, you know, for the script, what needed work and whatever. But for us, as well as sort of relative newcomers to screen acting, you know, we're used to comedy stage performing and being wildly over the top. We were able to see, okay, need to rein it in there, or actually, you know, or this sort of thing, you know. It's dead, like, for all sorts of reasons. It was a great experience.
Cool.
Something to recommend.
So you'd bring it forward into other projects.
Yeah, it sounds
Have you
like
ever been a part of?
no, not necessarily. I've done a lot of radio drama, so I know what that's like to be to have something up on its feet. It's really, really helpful, just to see if something physically is working or not. You know?
Like, we're going to do something. It's not the same, but it's quite similar. Hopefully, in the way it works out next year. I can't talk about it yet or what the project is, but basically, it's we're going to do a live performance. Or a reading of the first draft of a new screenplay. So in front of probably a comedy crowd. Well, A, it gives us a deadline where you know you're going to be on stage in front of people, so you fucking better have a script that's funny. But B, you know, you'll always have that audience in mind. You'll always know you can't meander. Can't be slow, whatever. But even the experience of doing it, you'll get a real good sense of what works and what doesn't. And then on top of all that, it'll be an easier sell to, let's say, the film board, if you can be like, look, we did it in front of people, it works. Here's a video if you want it. You know, and I think that worked with clowns, haven't done the play before, and I always think that is something I'd look at doing, especially now since the film board is getting. You know, they've had to stop the screenplay development thing for a while and whatever. I think they're getting more and more submissions. It's anything you can do to prove that you've got something. It's not just like here's something that could be something. You know?
I think they just announced the new scheme. We were talking a little bit about it yesterday.
I read
which
that
is more about kind of working hands-on and developing, actually script developing with mentors.
I saw that. That looks interesting. So they've sort of split it into two. So the existing one will stay, but it's for established people. So for people where every member has a credit on a produced film or TV drama, and then the other one is for people who may not, and then they get, I think there's much less rounds for that, but they get, like you were saying, kind of mentoring, more script editing, and even probably story not classes, but what do you mean? Like, you know, story is its own thing, as you know, that it's really useful to learn the structure of things. And
they seem to be taking more of a dramaturgy approach to it, which I think is very, very helpful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love the idea of doing the reads. But there's a bit of a trend, I think, in Hollywood with like Tarantino. I think there was an aborted script, and then he did a table read, and he ended up, I'll actually make it, and that was his last movie, I think. And then there's guys in Dublin actually who take scripts.
I've never managed to make it to one, but this seems awesome. Like, I remember the one that caught my eye was the one, the Superman movie that never was. Kevin Smith one. With Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Storybreakers or
Storybreakers. Scriptbreakers. Yeah, in the Grand Social.
Sorry, Chris. I know Chris.
It's such a good idea. So like they pack out the house.
I'd say so. Like, it sounds fun.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks so much for coming in.
No, thanks for having me.
Best of luck with all the projects.
Thank you.
Busy man. Thanks, man. Again, this is the Laughy episode. Sorry. We'd like to thank, there's been some great people along the way so far that have helped us. A big shout out to our main sponsor, Westland Studios, who houses us on a regular basis. So if you're in the market for coming up to Christmas in particular, if you're looking for a really special gift for somebody in the music business, I believe they have Christmas vouchers that you can buy for that someone special in your life. Check out their website, www.westlandstudiosdublin.com, and Owen there will look after you.